billionaire Henry Cole pretended to be crippled to test his wife's love. But what his wife did when she thought he was helpless shook the entire city. Like and subscribe, comment where you are watching from, as we dive into this exciting drama. The morning of the accident was carefully staged. Henry Cole, one of the most powerful billionaires in the city, lay in the back of an ambulance as his personal doctor fussed over him. To the world, he was now a man whose legs would never work again. But in truth, it was all an act, a calculated plan to see if the woman he married for love would stand by him in his darkest hour. When Vanessa arrived at the hospital, she wore sunglasses indoors and complained about the traffic before even asking how he was. "So, what now?" she asked casually, twirling her diamond bracelet. Henry swallowed his disappointment and played along. "The doctors, they say I may never walk again." At first, she put on the act, holding his hand, whispering comforting words, posting Instagram stories about being a strong wife during hard times. But Henry noticed her visits became shorter each day, her smiles faker. By the third week, she stopped showing up at the hospital altogether, making excuses about business meetings and needing time to think. When Henry was brought home in a wheelchair, Vanessa's attitude shifted from coldness to cruelty. "You know," she said one evening, arms crossed, "I didn't marry you to play nurse. This isn't the life I signed up for." Henry pretended to be helpless, struggling to reach his cup of water. Instead of helping, Vanessa rolled her eyes, picked up her purse, and said, "I'm going out." "Don't wait up." Soon, she started staying out overnight, coming home smelling of expensive cologne that wasn't his. One evening, Henry wheeled himself to the balcony and looked down. There she was, stepping out of a sleek sports car with a tall man in an expensive suit. She kissed the stranger before walking inside like nothing had happened. That night, she told him, without shame, "You're not the man I married. I need someone who can keep up with me, someone exciting." Henry felt every word like a blade, but behind his calm, wounded eyes, his mind was taking notes. The test was working. The woman he thought loved him was showing her true face. And she had no idea that crippled man in front of her could still walk, run, and one day, make her regret every cruel word. Vanessa didn't even try to hide it anymore. She paraded around with her new lover, a tall, smooth-talking man named Marcus who drove flashy cars, wore diamond watches, and promised her a life of endless luxury. Henry sat in his wheelchair by the living room window one afternoon, watching as Marcus honked outside. Vanessa came downstairs in a glittering red dress, her hair curled to perfection. "Going out again?" Henry asked quietly. She gave him a smirk. "Don't wait up. And try not to roll into anything while I'm gone." Her words were laced with venom, and her laughter echoed as she slammed the door. Days turned into weeks, and Vanessa spent less and less time at home. The whispers among Henry's staff grew. They saw her clinging to Marcus at expensive restaurants, dancing with him in nightclubs, even vacationing abroad. All while she was still Mrs. Henry Cole on paper. Then came the final blow. One morning, she walked in holding a stack of papers. "These are divorce papers," she said coldly, tossing them onto the table. "Marcus can give me the life I deserve. You can't." Henry didn't fight it. He simply nodded and signed. As far as she knew, the crippled billionaire was fading into obscurity, and she was trading up for a better life. But her dream quickly rotted. Within months of their marriage, Marcus's mask slipped. The luxury cars were rented. The wealth was borrowed to impress her. The bank seized his condo. And when Vanessa told him she was pregnant, Marcus didn't react with joy. He told her to take care of it because he couldn't afford a child. By the time she realized she had been used, Marcus was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just vanished, leaving her in a cheap apartment with unpaid bills and a baby on the way. She tried reaching out to Henry, no answer. She tried showing up at his mansion, but the gate stayed locked. Rumors had begun circulating that the crippled billionaire had disappeared from public life entirely. Little did she know, Henry was still very much alive, and far from crippled. And while Vanessa's world crumbled, his was quietly preparing for a return, one that would leave her speechless. Months after Vanessa walked out, Henry had adjusted to a quieter life. The lavish parties and fake friends had vanished, replaced by the hum of his private library, the rustle of newspaper pages, and the sound of birds outside his estate. To the world, he was still the crippled billionaire in seclusion. In truth, he had long since recovered from his supposed paralysis. The wheelchair was part of his carefully crafted plan. It was during this time that Ella came into his life. She was a junior employee in Henry's company, quiet, reserved, and known for staying late to finish her work. When Henry stopped showing up to the office, she grew concerned and decided to visit him. The guards at first refused her entry, but Henry, curious about her persistence, allowed her inside. She entered the grand living room hesitantly, holding a thermos. "Mr. Cole, I just thought you might like some homemade soup. You probably don't remember me, but I work in accounting." Henry studied her. She wasn't dressed to impress, no designer handbags, no calculated smiles. She looked genuine. Over the next few weeks, Ella visited often. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes books she thought he'd like, and sometimes just conversation. She didn't flinch at the wheelchair, didn't pity him, and never once asked about his money. She treated him like a man, not a headline. One rainy evening, they sat by the window sipping tea. "You know, Mr. Cole," she said softly, "people might forget your wealth, but they'll remember how you made them feel. I think you've got more strength than most people standing on two legs." For the first time in years, Henry felt warmth that wasn't tied to flattery or greed. She wasn't there for status, she was there because she cared. It was in those moments Henry began to see the truth. Vanessa had failed the test spectacularly, but Ella had passed without even knowing there was a test. And as the days went by, the idea began to form in Henry's mind. It was time for the world, and especially Vanessa, to see who he really was. It had been over a year since Vanessa signed the divorce papers. Henry's name had almost disappeared from gossip headlines. Rumor had it he was still in that wheelchair, living alone and pitiful. But that morning, a headline shook the city. Billionaire Henry Cole to host charity gala at Grand Horizon Hotel. The event drew business tycoons, celebrities, and Vanessa. She arrived draped in an expensive gown she could barely afford, clinging to the arm of yet another rich man. She had heard whispers that Henry was making a comeback, and she intended to be part of it. Inside the ballroom, the lights dimmed, and the murmurs quieted. The heavy curtains drew back, revealing Henry, standing tall in a perfectly tailored black suit, no wheelchair in sight. Gasps filled the room. Vanessa's painted smile froze. "No, this can't be real." Henry stepped up to the microphone, Ella by his side, her hand resting in his. He looked directly at Vanessa as he spoke. "A year ago, I was told love was only real when tested. So, I pretended to be crippled, and the truth revealed itself. Some people I trusted walked away, even while still married to me. Others, strangers, showed me kindness when they had nothing to gain." His eyes softened as he looked at Ella. "This woman stood by me when the world laughed. She fed me when no one else cared. And today, I'm proud to call her the love of my life." The crowd erupted in applause. Vanessa's date quietly slipped away, leaving her standing alone. After the speech, Henry walked past her. She stepped forward desperately. "Henry, I made a mistake. I was scared. I still love you." He stopped, his expression calm but cold. "You loved my bank account. Not me. That account is still here, but I'm not yours anymore." Ella's arm slid around his as they walked away. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment, the triumphant billionaire and the woman who saw the man, not the money. 2 months later, the wedding between Henry and Ella was the talk of the city. Vanessa wasn't invited. She watched from the sidelines as the man she had thrown away married the woman who had nothing, but gave him everything. And for the first time, Henry wasn't pretending anymore. He was standing tall, in every way that mattered. If this story moved you, don't forget to follow, like and subscribe, share and comment interesting story in the comments.